would say, I just would not shut up. So my body finally said, I'm taking you down. I'm just going to, my voice is going. So I'm going to start off a little bit, because I talked to Tonza and I talked to Nicole often, and we talked about what we would talk about. And being a woman in Trump's America, or America with Trump, whatever. But I wanted to just, first I wanted to thank Indivisible for having us here. This is really wonderful. And I want to say to you, these are the months. February is Black History Month. March is Women's History Month. And I always like switch them over. Usually in Black History Month, I need to start talking about being a woman and vice versa. So I'm going to talk more about being a woman regardless of race, because sexism informs so much of what we do. Yes. And I talked to Nicole and Tonza earlier. We would talk about our backgrounds. And my parents were from here. They graduated from Spencer High School, and Spencer was the only school that they could go to. And they met when they were really, really young, I think 14 years old, and they bonded over their mothers, my grandmother's, partying ways. My parents were very conservative. They were embarrassed with their parents because they partied and did all this kind of stuff. They got married right out of high school, and then they looked around and they said, we're going to have kids in, 1950s Columbus, Georgia. We can't do that. So Dad joined the Air Force and left. And we came back, 20 years later after the Civil Rights Movement had pretty much ended. And I didn't know a whole lot. I went to always integrated schools. Always lived in places, amongst all kinds of different people. And I thought that integration happened in 1954 with Brown versus Board of Education, right before my parents got married. I had no idea, and it looked like that to me. And so I lived in a bubble when it came to race. And so that may be one of the reasons why I approach racism a little bit different. But I was in a really religious family. My dad was in the Air Force, and my mom was a Jehovah's Witness. And what that means is that it's a sweet community, but it's a pacifist community. My dad was in the military. That's the first rub. And so during the Vietnam War, my dad was doing what he needed to do, and my mom was going door to door trying to get gentlemen to opt out. And so she actually, even though they're not political, showed me, that was my first activism. She was like, we got one. And so that was really, really cool. And so, but my second, I think one of the first really political things I ever did was when Apollo 13 went up. I was a really tiny child. I think I was in kindergarten or first grade, and there was something wrong with the engine, and my teacher said, I was in M&K Elementary School, and I must have been in kindergarten, and she said, we need to pray for the astronauts to make sure that they get, to make sure that God will help them. I was probably 5 years old, and I was like, there is a separation between church and state. I feel for them, but I cannot pray for them in school. and I understand, and I wanted people to know that, I wasn't a bad person, but there were just rules. You can't do that because certain people would be oppressed by that. And then going on, but I was the fourth of 4 children that my parents had, because once they decided to have children, they wanted 6 children. After the 4th, they're like, never mind. We were wrong. So I was not the kid that they experimented on. By the time I was around, they were like, we've had children before. We don't need to talk to her. And I was a quiet kid, and I was a girl kid, which meant I should be quiet, or that's what they thought. So I had a lot of thoughts going on, and I got to be. But what I knew was, in that religious community of mine, though it was close, they were shutting people out. And some of those people were like me, maybe little young baby dykes and all that kind of stuff. Shutting people out. And so I had to the great thing about that religion is that we knocked on doors and we talked to everybody. So I had to reconcile the good parts of that religion, knocking on doors and knocking to everybody, but I wanted to talk about the things that needed to be talked about, which were that everybody mattered. And so I could do that, and I could do it in Japanese because we lived in Okinawa. So, and I could do that, but I had a clinical detachment to doing it for myself. So I became like a baby fighter of oppression, but I would fight for other women's reproductive rights. I would fight for Jewish people. I would fight for the indigenous people in America. I would fight for the Okinawans who were being oppressed by the Japanese. I would fight against the Vietnam War. I would never even think of fighting for myself. And that's the way I grew up. But when you're socialized as a woman, when you do a lot for other people, you get a lot of strokes that way. And so people were like, didn't even notice that I wasn't doing anything for myself, because it just gave them more from me to do for them. And so I had to have an awakening, and it wasn't until a very long time that I realized that fighting for myself is just as much of an act of defiance as fighting for anyone else. Mm-hmm. And I was a lot older. So, but one of the things, one of the things I wanted to talk about was being a baby doc, because I was. There was a woman named, and some of you may remember her, Anita Bryant. And this is how my activism came out, and when I was doing junior activism for myself, but I couldn't tell people what I was doing. When I must have been probably 12 years old, 13 years old, and don't judge me, but some of my friends, and all my friends were always older, and one of them was a teacher. She could teach now, but we went out drinking. Not even messing around. I was 13, probably 12, and it was right after Elton John had decided that he was bisexual. So I did my little Jehovah's Witness thing. I wrote him a letter and said, "I'm very, very proud of you," clinically detached and all this other kind of stuff. And then Anita Bryant was doing her thing, and so everyone was drinking screwdrivers, vodka, and orange juice. I, the big guy that I was boycotting orange juice, but I wanted to be part of the crowd. So I did my little drinking. I'd never had anything to drink before in my life. And the next day, I remember waking up in the emergency room, alcohol poisoning. And it was because I was standing up for your rights and my rights. Drinking orange juice. It almost killed me. But once again, and I had the sensibility to understand that I mattered, because I didn't matter at that point. It's a great story, but actually it's a sad story, because it wasn't, I didn't even have the wherewithal to care enough for myself, not to kill myself fighting for other people. And if I do anything right now, I try to talk to people wherever they come in their activism, because you can be a young activist or your activism can be young. There's some 80-year-old people, it's their first time going to a protest.
That's right.
And so I want to make sure that they learn from what I've learned. It's like it's not about, if you don't take care of yourself and model that good behavior, you're going to be taken advantage of. And for the longest time, I thought it was selfish about that. So life goes on, and I'm just going to tell you how I got here. When I was finally turned 18 years old, and I was in college. I was already in college, and I was growing up a Jehovah's Witness. The first thing I did on my 18th birthday was, of course, I gave blood and registered to vote. Because those are things things never changed. But we were working for the Equal Rights Amendment in Georgia. And in Georgia, once again, that was something that I could do without putting myself out there, without thinking about racism, because I was doing it for all women. And I did not, a part of that activism that I'm hopefully better at now is identifying all forms of oppression. I would have been a better activist back then had I understood the racism in the women's movement, racism in the LGBTQ movement, yep. the sexism and all that kind of stuff. I didn't understand that, but by just fighting as hard as I could and keeping myself in the background and not identifying what I saw, but I saw it intellectually, but I wouldn't let my heart do it because I want to do that. And people will let you do it because you're fighting for them. even if you put yourself behind. So I fought for the Equal Rights Amendment, did some marches and all that kind of stuff. It was the first time I ever set foot in a church, because Jehovah's Witnesses don't go to other people's churches, and we had like coffee and donuts after the march. It was like, and even though intellectually I got it, I sort of thought, someone's going to come get me. It's never changed. And but even to this day, if you go to the Capitol in Atlanta, on the fourth floor, where they have the Equal Rights Amendment display, try to go to the bathroom there if you're a woman. They still don't have a woman's bathroom on the fourth floor of the Capitol building. We're not there yet, people. We are not there yet. Yes, of course, I use the men's bathroom and take a picture. I do. But which also leads us to, you wouldn't have to build another bathroom if everyone could use the same bathroom.
Exactly.
And so that's where we are now. And so, moving on from there, college came and college went, and I became really, really, really good at fighting for other people's rights. Really good at it. And once again, by putting that little thing in front of me, I did not have to identify with racism, and it was late in my life when I did, and that is a blessing and a curse. I wish that I knew more and I was better at it, but I was really appreciative of the shielding as well. Really, really appreciative. And so what led me there was when I started working at the Gainesville Women's Health Center, I came in, of course, as a volunteer because I was fighting for your rights and everyone else's, and people started to burn out, so I became the executive director, hiring doctors. I didn't perform abortions, but I assisted in probably 1,000 abortions a year for 8 years. And so we had people coming in, and that's when they were shooting doctors and women, and every single doctor that got killed in the state of Florida had gone through my clinic before, but once again, I was doing it for other people. I would get awakened in the middle of the night by the police, and they would want us to go through the clinic to look for the bomb that they said was in there, and I would do it. I would go pick up my doctor to go and perform our abortions and give him the bulletproof vest, and I would drive him in. I wasn't wearing one. It's like, what is wrong with that? Again, you put other people ahead. And so I know I'm diverging a little bit, but I want to make sure that we keep ourselves, because we're better activists.
Yes.
We're better activists when we speak for ourselves. It is a really tough one. This may be the thing that I've had the hardest thing for me to learn, because I am so naturally, as a conditioned as a woman, not to do that. So while I was it was during that particular thing. George H.W. Bush was the president of the United States, and people don't like W a lot, but George H.W. Bush did something that I will never forgive him for, and that was when Thurgood Marshall died, and he nominated Clarence Thomas. Right when he did it, I said to myself, he's the most cynical human being alive, because I knew that was going to put a wedge between women, the feminist community and the non-feminist community, the black community, black men, black women. I saw it right then, and then it happened right before my eyes. We knew he wasn't qualified. We knew he wasn't qualified, regardless of whatever happened with Ms. Hill. And then Ms. Hill came, and it's like, that should have been the icing on the cake to just kick him on off. But what happened was, of course, in many places, they were like, black men were like, we have to have a black man on there. So what? It's just a woman. She must have asked for it. This, that, all this stuff. And then at that point, Anita Hill looked a lot like me. It's like, it was almost like, because I would always avoid looking in the mirror. I would go for a while, and I would look in the mirror, and it's like, and I would forget what I looked like, because I was so busy working at the clinic, working for HIV, working for this, working for that, and I was just, but she looked so much like me that when that happened, and I remember exactly where I was during the hearings, and then when the vote came down. And when that vote came down, it was like, my country has turned on me, not just as a woman, but as a black woman. I finally figured it out. I was in my, mid to late 20s. That changed my activism because then I became the angry black woman. And for a while, for 5 minutes, I was like, I'm not going to be your angry black woman, but guess what? I am. You know why? I don't want to shake hands with racism. I don't want to hug it out with sexism. I don't want to coexist, with gun violence. I want it gone. I'm going to step on it. I'm going to fight it really, really hard, and I'm going to do it loudly, and I'm going to use my voice. And sometimes I'm going to lose my voice because I'm not going to shut up.
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing I have to leave. People will say, is it because you did this, because you did that? It is make sure you are out there. I feel like there are whole swaths of my life where I was sitting on, I can see everything that was happening, and I can tell the story, but I'm not there. I'm not there. My actions were probably there. I probably helped people, but I am just not there. That's going to change. And so some people will call it selfish and all this other kind of stuff. I don't think it's selfish at all, because you don't build whole people if you don't make sure that they are in front of you and active and being not just tolerated, but loved and invited and wanted all of the time. And it doesn't come naturally. It didn't come naturally to my generation of women, and I'm hoping that it comes naturally to the next generation of women. Another quick thing I wanted to talk about was, why I think, and Carolyn's going to be a big part of this, Indivisible's going to be a big part of this, all of us are going to be a big part of this whole gun culture thing right now. We are at a tipping point. And you know why? It wasn't a tipping point when they were going and shooting abortion clinic doctors. No one cared. And when they were shooting patients, no one cared. It wasn't a tipping point when they shot 26-year-olds.
Yep.
Those 26-year-olds don't have Snapchat and Twitter and Instagram. They went for the tech-savvy youth. The tech-savvy youth are who are going to lead us through this. It's horrible that it had to come to this. But this is where we are. And this is, I can feel it. I can feel it just like it was my tipping point when I saw Anita Hill. And it was like, he came after me. He came after me. And just an aside, Joe Biden. The thing is, if you remember where Joe Biden was with this, we have to identify what happened and identify what it was. And you can understand that it was a different time. But Joe Biden was the head of the Senate that was running that. And there were two other women that corroborated Ms. Hill's testimony. We could have taken care of that right then. But Joe Biden was going to run for president. Sam Nunn, who voted vote for Clarence Thomas, was going to run for president. And so my life as a black woman, when I was finally fully recognized as a black woman, was not enough for them to fight for, because they were going to run for president. So we want to make sure that we hold everybody accountable. It's not always pretty. It's not always pretty. And it's okay to make mistakes. As women growing up, you had one shot. And why don't you run for office, Patricia? I have baggage. Well, now, look who's in the White House. But also, that baggage is white and male. That guy is white and male. It will be different for not just a black woman, but for any woman. And until we recognize that, get comfortable with it, and then get comfortable with speaking up to it every single time, we're going to stay in this. We're going to stay in this, and we're going to stay in this. So in this, what I'm talking about is, life went on after the Anita Hill incident, and I've never been quiet. I was on the national board for the National Organization for Women, and I felt much more comfortable talking about racism and the women's movement, talking about sexism and whatever movement, talking about, racism and the LGBTQ movement. And that changed my activism a whole lot. And then when 2000 came, and I was getting ready to, I was working actually on the Gore campaign, and I lived in Florida. Jeb Bush was my governor, and and that election came up, and I was working on the Gore campaign, and I went to vote that morning, and I was purged from the voter rolls. And the women that were there, because there were women that ran, and they're like, you vote here all the time. You're just not here. And that was at 7 a.m. in the morning. And as I was calling the supervisor of elections, and who didn't answer at 7 a.m. in the morning, there was a line forming behind me of people that had been purged in Florida. And, we didn't think anything of it at that moment because we were winning Florida, and we thought we won Florida. But voting rights are so, and for the next 5 years, every time I went to a voting booth, I was in tears. And it's not tears because I was sad. I was enraged, people. I was really, really angry. But it is really, really important that we protect our voting rights, and because that could have been anybody. I did everything right. I did everything correctly, except that I lived in a Democratic neighborhood that was full of, it was in Ybor City in Tampa, and it was full of people who were brown or black or all that, and it was easy pickings because we thought we had won. We thought we had won, and so with the 2016 election, what we need to remember, on top of everything else, Russians and everything else, which all that happened, is it was the first general election that we've had since they gutted the Voting Rights Act, because they said there was no racism, and homophobia and all that. That's a huge, huge deal. So we have to fight for, we have to remember our history, learn, and not, beat ourselves up for not being there. Now I know that I need to hit these meetings and do this and all that. But the thing is that now that I'm learning to take care of myself more, it never was all about me, but let's engage everyone to do that. So because the struggle's not so hard when everybody's doing their part, and everyone has a part to do. Everyone has a part to do. I am in, ERA, women's rights, LGBTQ, and all this. But if we're not in the disability community right now, we're a fall away.
Yes.
And so we're in that community right now. So even though I am really proud to be on the LGBTQ caucus of the state of Georgia, I'm also on the disability caucus because I'm fighting for. And I'm not just doing it for people that identify as disabled now. I'm doing it for myself. And it is so, I can't tell you how important it is to do things for yourself. Sometimes I have to talk to myself in the mirror in the morning, and it's like, you matter. And I can say that to any young person going on, and I mean it. But we have to make sure that we're doing it for ourselves. So we have elections coming up. We've had elections that we've had to do. But every single day is an opportunity to do it better. No matter what I've done in the past, that is in the past. I need to be a better activist tomorrow and more thoughtful than I was today. And that challenge is what keeps me going, because I'll make massive mistakes. And it's like the only thing that I have going for me is that tomorrow I won't make that mistake but I won't make, and I can teach someone, and because back in the day there was this secrecy thing. Once again, with women, you're not given that chance. Even right now, regardless of how you feel about Hillary Clinton, I am disgusted when people say, "Hey, babe, you need to go and start knitting."
Okay.
You can't come back. They're inviting everyone and their old brother back, as long as it's a brother, back to come and run for office. But women, they want to give one shot or maybe a half a shot. And the other thing when it comes to sexism is, even with Sarah Palin, but especially with Melania and all that, there's plenty of stuff for me to hate them for or hate about them. I do not have to attack them for being women. I do not have to attack their women. And I will just defend them from sexism, even though I can't stand them, because that is the thing to do. It is just so
right thing.
Easy to discount people for, if you're going to discount someone because of you are uncomfortable with their gender, then you're also going to do it for race. You're also going to do it because that person is queer. Yep. You're also going to do it because you perceive that person is disabled. You're just putting those things in front of you. So we can't do it for anyone. For anyone. That informs my activism every single day, and I catch myself because nobody's perfect, and I'm not even close to being perfect. And so, and how did we get here? I believe in my heart that we would have been further along where we are if it hadn't been for HIV/AIDS. When I was growing up, or when I was a younger activist, and HIV/AIDS decimated our communities. I lived and worked and played and had fun with so many strong, especially men, but men and women that were anti-sexist, anti-racist, and anti-disability. They was working on, but they died. And they died because, well, for one, they weren't far enough along into getting a cure and into getting treatment and all that, but also because nobody cared about them. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. And so I used to deal, I offended a couple of white gay gentlemen once, and I was like, because I said, what I learned from that particular community while I was working in the community was I didn't want to just be tolerated. I wanted white male privileged people. Aren't we all with it? Exactly. But once we all have it, then it'll just be privilege. It'll just be forever. But the thing is, I used to say, I was like, don't kill me. It's not enough just to not kill me. Once again, you must embrace me. You must hold me up to, you can do everything that this particular person can do as well. And so I loved, these young gay, a lot of them were white men back then, because they were like, don't just accept us, and some of them were on their deathbeds. And they're like, do better. And I learned from them. And I learned every single day. And I want to tell you just a little bit about what happened, because Harriet talked about it a little bit. I left Columbus for 7 months last year to learn more about doing campaigns. And I lived in Atlanta, and there in the mayoral race that I worked in, there were 13 people running. And I am not one to tell a person not to run, for goodness sakes. There were 13 people running, and someone had stopped. And it was called and 10 men and 3 women. And so going in, first people were already asking, one of these women needs to drop out. There are only 3 of us, for goodness sakes, and no one was asking any of the other people, any of the men to drop out. And even though we came in 3rd, we came in 1, 2, 3 women. And that is huge. And so, but once again, we need to pick our battles. None of those women needed to drop out, but we need to make sure that when we are winning our state back, that we are looking at the offices that we need, and we're qualified to run in them, and that we are covering everything. It is so, so important to ask yourself, give yourself that gut check on why you're running. What can you do for, what is it, public service? Or because even if you're using it as a stepping stone, there's some people that I know that I want to run for governor or president or something like that. So I'm going to support you when you come in for school board and all that, but not just to sit there and not do anything. And it is so. The thing is that we have organizations in this town and in this state and everywhere where people feel that I'm elected to this position and I'm done. But guess what? The election is where you start. It's where you start. And so I just challenge people to go ahead. As I always say, first look in the mirror, but look to your side and look to your other side. And if that person isn't running for something, maybe you should be doing it. But once you get there, make sure that you are doing the work of that office and making sure that you every single day are influencing people on how to treat each other and how to treat you. I could have gone through my entire life just working for other people and not having a life. And because that's easy for me, and I'm really, really good. I'm really good at being a workhorse. The struggle to work for to pay attention to myself is good for me, but it's also good for that next little 6-year-old that comes out there and that comes up. And not only is she going to say, there's a separation between church and state for all the rest of the people, but also it's because it makes her feel good. It's because it makes her understand her place in the world. And there's and this world is big. There's a place for all of us, and we need to take up a whole lot of space. We really, really do. The world is big. We can live in urban areas and get all close and all this other kind of stuff. But you know what? We need to do some, what is it called? Man-spreading? We need to cast our arms out. We need to spread our legs. We need to spread our influence. And we need to make sure that there's so much good in all of us. And sometimes we hide it and we hoard it. But you know what? If you spread it out and you give it away, more comes. And then you're teaching people how to treat you. You're teaching people how to treat your daughter. You're teaching people how, it's a teaching tool right now. We have someone in the White House right now because we stopped treating people the way they needed to be treated. We stopped treating ourselves. We said, we're not good enough, obviously, for this. We are. We need to use this as a teaching tool right now and say, we're never going to accept that again. We're sorry that we treated ourselves so badly, but we can't. And we're here to fix it. We are here to fix it. I am so, my heart was broken, of course, when 2016 happened, and my heart doesn't get broken politically very much. 2016 broke my heart. 2000 being denied the vote. Broke my heart. In 1991, when they did that to Ms. Hill, broke my heart. Other than that, but we have a chance to heal this time. We need to share and we need to take responsibility. We need to take responsibility and then just work hard together. Listen, know that we're going to make mistakes. And not kill each other for making mistakes, and just keep going on. And so I have a whole bunch of other stuff to say about campaigns and stuff like that, but this was my point. This is why I came today, and I didn't even know it. My point is to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, and so that we can take care of our community, so that we can make sure that we are the best public servants, whether or not we're elected, whether or not we are just walking up and down the street. It doesn't matter. You have to do that in every aspect of your life. I'm doing that in my own small way, and I'm learning every single day, and I just hope that everyone just stays on this journey with us, and that, we're just going to go and run the world.
We love it.